I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and with me today is a very special guest, Carcassonne master, and the winner of many international tournaments, and one of the highest rated players in the world, and a fellow YouTuber, Otto Ikonen of Finland, also known with his screen name Nallerheim. Hi, Otto.
Hello, people. Welcome back. Oh, first, that is very much to my habits. It's gonna be a fun night. That's all I'm gonna say.
So fun night for everybody in East Asia who's watching, and a fun morning who is watching in the Western Hemisphere. We expect viewers from different locations in the world because we have quite an international match today. We're having the semifinals of the most prestigious of the 4 qualification tournaments for the Carcassonne Champions League 2026. This is the tournament designed for the highest rated players in the world in 2025, and among them are Huang of Taiwan, with the screen name Penguin EM. Henceforth, we shall affectionately refer to her as Miss Penguin. And Bourdois of Catalonia, with the screen name defdean. And here they are. So you can see the entire bracket here. You can actually see the players, also all the 8 top players in this qualification. Otto among one of them. We're going to talk about this a little bit later. As you can see, defdean with a peak rating of 793 in 2025. Miss Penguin very close with 789. We expect quite a close matchup. Here are the brackets. You can see that at first, defdean lost to the Japanese master with a screen name Rabbit Train, which relegated him to the loser bracket. He then went past Afonso Cavaco of Portugal, Yaroslav Herasimenko of Ukraine, and now he's facing Huang. Then the Taiwanese master also lost quite quickly. She lost to Yaroslav Herasimenko in her first round, got relegated quite early, then went past the Mexican master Oscar Henny, and also past Rabbit Rain, which is considered quite the upset. And now she's here. And whoever wins today, look at who they will be awaiting in the consolidated final. So, Otto, you must have something more than just simply pure curiosity. I assume some vested interest in exploring how these players play. But you must have had a bit of history before them. So just what do you make of today's match? Do you have a favorite between these two? Would you prefer facing one of these opponents in the consolidated final over the other? Just let me know your thoughts.
Well, I would have to certainly say that, well, given the performance of both of these players, and just this season, then I think I think Penguin is actually going to be a, well, let's say preferable matchup that I would want to have, because I think she doesn't perform as well during through some intense pressure, and if she gets up, on a rather bad foot, then she doesn't really have the, or let's say, as many signs of keeping up the fighting. Whereas defdean, I think I would have to be really up on my toes, way more. Not to downplay Penguin or anything, but I do kind of like to say my thoughts out loud, maybe a bit too loud sometimes. So yeah, you can make that what you want.
Okay, well, let's see what happens. Yeah, the thing with Miss Penguin, her performance, her Carcassonne knowledge is very deep. I sometimes get from her moves, for example, with Yaroslav, that sometimes nerves are an issue, but the way she played against Rabbit Rain was very stable, and I think things are going to be too easy for defdean at the very least. So they should be starting 1 minute. Well, interesting that defdean is offline, so I wonder if there have been some delays. Hi Kaika, hi Huang, hi Diamond Meeple, hi E Townsend. Yeah, let's just wait for a little bit, but I will remind our viewers the rules about no-shows, because we've had a couple before. So if you're late for your match up to 15 minutes, there's no penalty. If you arrive after 15 minutes, then you get a warning or a yellow card. Then the match is rescheduled to a different date, to as close a date to today as possible. And then you can play the match as normal. The tournament warning carries with you for the rest of the tournament. If you get 3 of those warnings, you're eliminated from the tournament. So a policy that I would say is quite reasonable and gentle to different circumstances. But yeah, a bit unexpected, because Penguin EM's online, and I definitely knew that David was online earlier today. And now, Otto, we have apparently a few more minutes to fill. We don't know how many, so we need to improvise a little bit. Is there anything you like talking about? You know what? Okay, so since we have Otto here for a limited amount of time, hi Glavier, then over the course of this stream, you can ask questions to my special guest. You can ask about the World Championship, YouTubing, I don't know, anything else.
No, I think I'm very much down to answer questions from from the East Range to the West Range. If anything comes to mind, then I like to be well, I'm gonna use the word public figure in those terms, as to I will be open from basically any angle.
Gotcha. In the meantime, hi Sergio. Also, you know what I want to ask everybody who's watching this? I'm always very paranoid about potential sound issues. Like, before every stream, I keep checking things, so could you let us know if the sound is okay, if you can hear Otto well, if you can hear me well enough? Here's a question for you, Otto. What did you ask for Christmas? What do you want for Christmas?
Well, as it stands, I have actually not made any like wishes, and that's mostly because I had failed to see a question like within my family group of them specifically asking like what everyone's wanting. But let's say if I were to answer that now, then currently I have been like kind of well, let's say newly piqued my interest into the Red Dragons Inn, and that is kind of heavily reliant. A lot of the fun is heavily reliant, to my opinion, of having like enough characters to play with, and just being able to like kind of start hoarding those extra special characters. Then it would be a very nice addition, because currently I have like the base box, and then I have the character trove with a few additional ones. But it's always nice to see and to get to play with characters that have like those special abilities, because they really make the game a lot more fun. And that's what I've been trying to now, like kind of make my family members accustomed to: my little brothers, my parents, my whoever I have been basically able to get to the table. Then I am not in a rush to get out of Red Dragon's Inn.
Right. Lovely answer. Yeah, do let me know in the chat, somebody, if y'all can relate, because I'm just not familiar with Red Dragons in. And as I do lack quite sometimes some basic game knowledge, we have actually more questions. So first of all, in case we have a no-show and it looks like in 8 minutes we'll have to call a no-show for defdean, which I'm a bit surprised. I hope everything's okay with them. But in case they don't show up in 8 minutes, then we always have an activity that we do in case of cancelled matches, and we have Otto here. I hope Otto, you don't mind solving some puzzles together on stream.
Yeah, no, not at all. That would be great.
Okay, perfect. So we could do that, but until then, let's wait the 8 minutes, and we do have already some more questions. Yeah, I think I fixed now Otto's image. It should have been unfrozen. What else? We have a question from Diamond Meeple about the starting player advantage. Oh, this is something that has been discussed quite a lot. I can answer that one. It's basically, yes, it's great to go first. The statistical advantage according to the games that actually happened, well, it sort of varies from tournament to tournament. For example, from the analysis of 1,300 games from the 2023 World Team Carcassonne Online Championship, the advantage was 4%. But then the analysis of a few hundred games from the 2025 Champions League was something obscene, 10%. I think it's only because of the small sample size. I think in reality it is very similar to having whites in chess, 5% or so. But I think that maybe the potential of that advantage is a little bit greater because not many players know how to fully exploit the starting player advantage. But yeah, it's quite a hotly debated topic as to what exactly the nature of that advantage is, why that is, how many points, how many percentage points. What else can I add? Any thoughts about the starting player advantage, Otto, in addition to the ones above?
Well, I don't know about the advantage, but well, the one curious thing, of course, which I do kind of have to add to that is that you sometimes do have to be, or would be helpful for you to be aware of the potential of being able to lose that position, being able to lose that advantage in cases of a discarded tile happening in the early page in the early part of the game, or well, really at any part of the game, as long as it's not the last tile.
Yeah, so that's a great point. The delaying of the starting player advantage, well, technically it doesn't change who the starting player was, but the main nature of this advantage, that the starting player also gets to lay the last tile, and that's why they have better probabilities in the end game. This, of course, switches as soon as the parity of the tile changes, as soon as a tile is discarded. And sometimes on some boards you can force or at least increase the probability of a discard as the second player, and it's something I should take into account into the new moves. And finally, we have news about the match. Also, yeah, we have a bit of more comments relating to sound, so let me know if the noise has gone. It should be by now. Anyway, so the match is starting actually in 50 minutes, as it has been postponed due to, I don't know whichever reasons, but since the match is going ahead still, we know that both players are okay. So Otto, puzzles for the next 15 minutes, you're right with that?
Yep, I'm down.
Alright, so how often actually do you yourself go on topcarcassonne.com? How often do you solve these puzzles yourself, if ever?
Well, as it stands, when they were first introduced, when the site maybe it came a bit more known, then I did take a look at it quite frequently, but it happened for only maybe like a couple weeks, and then I never, well, almost actually never used the site anymore. Although I can't really refute the possibilities it has to offer in terms of being able to practice, but I Well, first of all, I just haven't really had the time to do all that much like intense practice due to my own um, life outside the game. Um, but also because I think I I tend to do like kind of puzzles only in the form of like self-analysis, and not so much in this like kind of chess for me thing where you have a ready-made puzzle for yourself.
Yeah, I guess the approach is quite similar. So basically, you take situation from actual games. These are also situations from actual games. The one thing that I do like about this website is that in addition to what we normally think as puzzles, I think both you and I, when we solve puzzles, we mostly think endgame puzzles. Here you have puzzles from all stages of the game, including the opening and the middle game, as this one, well, actually, late middle game, pre-end game, something like this, with 11 tiles remaining. Here, as always, on this website, we're playing yellow. Let me just try and make this one a little bit bigger. No, that's a little bit... Yeah, I think this should be all right. No, that's too much. Sorry, it's just very sensitive. Yeah, okay. Yeah, should be good enough. And we have this here Dorito with the shield. What, the points on the scoreboard. We're 31. Our opponent has 12, so we're plus 19, and we even have a meeple extra in hand. So, if you see the position well enough, Otto, can you go ahead and just let me know what your take on the position is?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna be always counting up the points, like what's the actual situation. So gathering that we are equal on the ruin at the bottom, we have 3 uncompleted monasteries as of right now with 5 plus 6 plus 5, so that's what 16 more, puts us at plus 35 against our opponent's 6-point monastery, which is which is 6 points, so plus 29 versus the long road of red, which is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, so plus 17, and then the trapped meeples in the center for red for 10 additional points, so minus 7, and then the actual threat that we have to deal with, most likely here, which is the 2 remaining cows in the deck, I believe, which doesn't really honestly look all that great, especially when it visibly seems that our opponent can also get the meeple back from the road, because there is still 1 crossroad remaining in the deck. Well, my first instinct that is that we kind of have to just go for the points, and we have to really like try and utilize our 1 meeple that we have in hand, because if we just draw the cows, then we are most likely going to be in some really decent waters here at, well, actually at plus 4 if we draw both cows, and as long as we also manage to avoid our opponent getting the meeple back from the road for until maybe like at the very late tiles of the game, which this might actually even be. Yeah, there's just now I noticed that there was 11 remaining tiles left. But because we are gonna be assuming that the opponent gets the cow, then what I really think our stance should be is that how can we win if our opponent gets the cow, and I think just really going super aggressively for the scoring route should be the case. So, which is also to me sounds important to have actually like 0 meeples in hand, and our final meeple doing some city scoring, provided that there are city caps left, so that if the opponent gets the cow, we also get the meeple back from there, and we don't need to worry about being and we don't need to worry about having like 0 meeples.
Right, so I agree with everything that you said strategically. Just wanted to point out a couple of interesting things. So the way you assessed your position, I was quite interesting that your first thought is to count the points, which of course is important. For me, it's about like the third or fourth thing which I do, for better or worse. The number one thing that I pay attention to is the threats, which of course you also did. I'm just kind of curious about the thought process, because after you've counted the points, then you started acknowledging the threats, the main one being this one over here, and the, I guess, very little one of our opponents potentially finishing this here road. Another thing I want to point out just about how this website is built, we can save ourselves some time by, of course, when we're solving this problem by ourselves, it's good to do all the calculations, but even we have the total point difference as a hint, and even the remaining tiles, which we can look up and hide if we need them. So now that we've analyzed the position, yeah, what move now we make that it would fit into our strategic purpose? So definitely scoring, like completing a feature which can get back, completing a feature and getting a meeple back is certainly that I'm looking forward to do here as yellow. How can we do it with this tile? Do you have any candidate moves, Otto?
Well, top thing would be for me to either start looking for a city on the left, the vacant city cap, or at the or the city at the top, so as to really put this shielded tile into use. But we can also go for a more conservative approach, although I wouldn't really like that all that much, of just going for basically a loop road on the right and just not meepling anything here. But given that the threat of red finishing the city is so severe, and it gives like, I don't know, about 20 points or so, like roughly, then I think just those 4-point roads are really not gonna be cutting it by all that much. So that's why I want to at least initially here go for really aggressive scoring.
Yeah, I actually wanted to double down on that and acknowledge the difference between a 4-point road and an 8-point city. Because let's say if we're now ahead +9, our opponent goes here, they get 22 for. Okay, they actually don't get 22, they get a little bit less. They get, yeah, as you said, 20 or 19 or something like this. Then we're going to be losing about 10 points. But as soon as we finished this here 8-point city, I presume you're also going to prefer this one over the one at the top, but it depends on a couple of factors. Actually, maybe the one at the top could even be better, but it really, really depends. Then the scoreboard is going to be basically equal. And like being down 6 and being down 2 is a very, very big difference this close to an endgame. If you don't mind, I'm just going to reveal the remaining tiles, because I know we're both like fully capable of calculating, but let's just save some time and also save some time for our viewers as well. So here they are. And now that we have the candidate moves and we've narrowed it down to scoring cities, the main question is in the title of the puzzle. Do we meeple that city? And, well, let's say this one or this one. Because normally you would meeple this, but since our opponent does not have any meeples, we have the luxury of leaving those cities empty if we want. But do we want that? Oh, yeah, thank you, Raf, for pointing out that all tiles are apparently hidden behind Otto. So let me just move them a little bit here. I think they should be now just above Otto. Or maybe not. Okay, I will need to make some adjustments, I guess. Hold on. Now Otto's going to go here above in the top right corner. Okay, perfect. Close enough. And let me just show the tiles to everybody again. So here we are.
Yeah, I would honestly, I would just go for go for this city because given that we have 5 city caps, we have actually a relatively low number of tiles in the deck that we wouldn't be able to really use. If anything, like actually almost the only tile we wouldn't be able to use without a meeple in hand then is the horse. Because otherwise we can just otherwise we can just add some points to our monasteries for a couple extra points. That's nice, if that's all we can do. But the odds are looking kind of good for us to get our meeple back, especially with the divider still in the deck. And because there are both types of city caps with road to the right and field to the right, then it's really not so much in the capabilities of our opponent even to try and block the city. And actually, it might even be better if they try and do so, if we start the city from the left. Because if they then try to block the city, we will then hit, let's say, for example, a dagger, and we get to also, in some cases, meeple the field on the same turn if our opponent has gotten the cow before, which would be really great for us because in our current stance, if we finish that 8-point city before our opponent has gotten the cow, then it could be a possibility that they have gotten the crossroad and they are going to be able to then utilize that one meeple way better than we should be allowing them to. Because it's going to be important for us to really be first on that 9 or even 12-point field, or even more, considering the amount of city caps. Like the field is going to be, I think, a crucial thing to be winning in this endgame.
Yeah, being first in the field, like even if our opponent manages to equalize the field later, they'll probably have to sacrifice some value tiles, and this is our main route to victory. But I wanted to add one more thing, that if we don't meeple the city, there are additional issues. So you've pointed out them potentially drawing a crossroads, getting a meeple back, and then them getting a city cap and scoring the 8 points. Another less of a threat, but a high prob threat, is that they simply draw a city cap of their own and they just finish the incompleted cities for 0 points just to take it out from us. And then with the next cap that we draw, let's say if we get the dagger, then we actually can't do anything because we can't meeple this, we can't meeple this, we actually cannot pick up any quick points on the board. So that would be an argument for meepling as well. Then there's also the nice advantage that there's no way to completely block our city, like there are 5 city caps of different tiles. So my first instinct is to definitely go here and go for the city. But do you see any advantages or disadvantages of this spot compared to this spot here at the top?
Well, certainly some, although, I mean, they are not perhaps the ones that I would be all that worried about, because we can, of course, perhaps with some particular tiles block the recovery of the meeple from the road. Say, for example, we go there with a Dorito, and then we get the horse, which I mentioned would have been like basically the only tile that we wouldn't be able to really use. Then we would be able to use that to block the road. However, it would be making our city like ever so slightly more vulnerable. But honestly, that's not a huge problem, given the plentiful amount of city caps in the deck, and given that the other tiles that our opponent needs are not really great for blocking, because the cows they already need elsewhere, and the city caps don't really work for them for blocking, at least not in the best way possible, because we can still advance the city with a divider or with a cow ourselves if we get restricted towards like a Dorito or something.
Indeed, and in fact it looks like the blocking options at the top are very similar to the blocking options on the right, except that maybe on the top is slightly more vulnerable as you said, in that horse scenario. So my slight preference will be for the city on the left, which was also your first instinct, for a reason unrelated to this road, really. It's mostly about the field. So for that scenario where you said that we go here, our opponent gets something like a straight line, restricts us, then we get the dagger and maybe even get to drop a farmer. Then this field kind of feels very nice and clean. There are not many good potential field invasion platforms for it. Whereas if we go here and finish our city for 8 points, then suddenly there's like a secondary field at the top for 6. There's also this here platform, which can be used with, I don't know, a city cap and a monastery. But then I guess there's also this here platform at the top regardless. Yeah, it's very subtle here. Are there any other field connection platforms that I haven't mentioned that I'm not seeing? Oh, there's one very interesting one from the right, like this, through one of the 2 daggers. Anything else?
Well, given that the 8-point city that we would be creating on the left, it would in some cases also provide some alternative methods to get to the field, which could honestly surmount into being one of the better ways to get there. But actually, yeah, when you now said that you are not really as much of a fan maybe to go at the top, then if we don't go there, there's really only one single tile that can be used in the first place to use that platform as a field attack.
And even if that is used, then there's some blocking tiles like the splitter or the second cow, or that we can place here immediately, so that platform kind of becomes a bit more marginal. So I guess now we need to submit a move. So which one are we going for again?
Well, I would say going to the left, starting a city.
And meepling it.
Yes.
And let's try to add a concise comment to it. Our opponent is about to finish a 22-pointer or something like this with a cow, so we need to be proactive in gathering compensation. We need to meeple the city, otherwise our opponents can clean it off with a city cap. And let's vote. And also one cool thing about this website is that we get to see how others voted. So let's have a look at the alternative moves. Yeah, so we also talked about that maybe leaving the city open is not ideal, that placing a meeple is a bit better. A move preemptively dropping a farmer seems a little bit too crazy to me, as we're losing a lot of value, and in some cases we're helping to finish our opponent's road if our opponent gets themselves the horse tile and goes here. But what do you make of this idea, Otto?
I really don't like it all that much. Like, yeah, we technically we take away the crossroad, but we give them another tile to take value from. And like, the field really is a feature that we are banking on taking and assuming that our opponent also is going to be then able to complete the city. But then if they complete the city now, then without those extra points that we would be able to potentially get from an additional city, if we were to start one with the Dorito, then I kind of doubt that we would be having enough points to go with in the first place, because we would also be going into a meeple deficit given the cow.
Indeed, and I guess this move counts on getting a meeple back from the cow, but it really falls flat if the cow is drawn later, so I can certainly see how this compensation farmer in many scenarios would just not be enough to overcome the city. Yeah, then, well, this move we discussed, this one's also reasonable. Also trying to gather compensation. Yeah, this move we talked about. This move seems even a little bit crazier because it also allows now red to finish a road and then pick off a city caps or multiple city caps and start scoring. Yeah, and there's also the idea of just leaving this open, which is not a crazy idea, but as we said, the meeple seems to be slightly better. Alrighty, so that was the puzzle. We have time for probably one or two more, since there's still 28 minutes before the match. So let's just go to the second one. Okay, the second one's called Architecture 38, with a very vague title. Oh, and this one's an opening puzzle. Okay, loving those. So we don't really need to count tiles and points in this particular instance. We just need to see that we have a curve in hand. Oh wait, now I need to move Otto again, because now we just need to see the meeple counts. Just bear with me, like this. Wait, I want to be very meticulous about this. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so this is the puzzle where yellow, we have a monastery. We just restricted our opponent. Here we have a road. Our opponent has 4 points on the scoreboard, and now we have a curve. I guess there's not too much to analyze in the state of position as it is very early and a bit equal-ish. One thing that we can check is who has the starting player advantage, and I think it is not us. So what are your first thoughts about this Otto with a curve in hand as yellow?
Well, I certainly have a couple of key candidates that I wouldn't mind doing any of those. But well, if we are talking like realistically, I would say that this is quite a boring tile, quite a boring tile that we have, because usually I would certainly prefer like a lot more city tiles in the early stages, and now this isn't going to be really giving us like an let's say an early edge in our feature buildings, let's say, but it can be can be used in multiple ways to in shaping the board to our liking. One way is to like really go like kind of more aggressive with an early battles, and one way is to go a bit more let's say fancily, which I think even if I would not to specify more than that, I think you would already have a good hunch on the move that I would be meaning. But well, let's actually do it like this. So point me the move that I'm meaning with the latter one, with the fancy one.
Did I guess correctly?
And that is a bingo.
Yeah. No, we've just known each other long enough. I mean, obviously, like practiced together for hundreds of games. Yeah, so this is definitely a very interesting move. Let me do this. Let me just. So the way I think about these positions, I kind of try to narrow things down. So let me just say all the candidate moves that pop out to me, and then we could start eliminating them. So this is definitely one of them. Option 2, we can go here and build our road, create a monastery spot, also try to maybe with tempo continue our road and then later block this city. Option 3, we acknowledge that we have a monastery spot over here already, and then we try to build the road differently. We try to go over here, which then would prolong the road like this. Option 4, we can go here and build a road like this and already drop a farmer straight away if we think if this is important and we're that type of person. Option 4 is we go here and we meeple a compensation road instead. We think that our opponent is going to finish our city with something like a rose, and we already want to get those 3 points. Option 4, okay, this one I'm not even going to say. This is just very, very, very bad. Option 4 is to go here and try to block like this. And option 5 is this multi-purpose move of continuing our road and also creating a blocking platform over here. So what, that was like 5, 6 candidate moves. I guess there's also this option of trying to build the road indirectly and then preparing a curve because our opponent cannot block, because if they go here, they expose a vulnerability next to themselves. Do you have, first of all, between these moves, which you want to eliminate something straight away? And did I miss any other candidate options? Wait, is it just me, or can others also not hear Otto?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute.
Okay, okay.
That was my bad. The one move that I'm gonna be inheritably taking away from the calculations is of course the one that you said was bad already, going with the 1 point move and taking away our monastery spot, and also I'm also taking away almost immediately the blocking route at the tip, at the top of the city. Given that there are still 3 starting tiles, but there are still also like just the same 3 daggers. So why should we go for that type of restriction when we can go for the multi-purpose move and we can be like much more efficient? Then I think it's gonna be for me either this or just going for the straight up field, making the future monastery spot a little bit better by giving ourselves also the extra queen square on the right, and also of course well, first and foremost really taking away the option for our opponent to go with a farmer if they do happen to get a city plus road city cap in hand immediately.
Right, yeah. And finally, what do you think about just a peaceful move continuing our road in one of those ways? So not saying that this is a top option, but first of all, if you would go for one of these 2 moves, which way would you point the road, and how do these 2 ideas rank compared to the other ones?
I would be going for I think the downwards route. So as to be being able to use both road tiles and monasteries then on the right to progress our features. Whereas if we go at the top, if we go towards the top, then I think it would be considerably, maybe considerably worse, but like slightly worse, because then we are going to be needing the same types of tiles to both sides of our monastery. That's usually not the type of a thing that you want to have, even if there's were to be like monastery spots. But also because then we, by going pointing at the top, then we also I think being a bit like inefficient in the future with our blocking routes, because we can only really do those with tiles that are not being able to pose such a significant threat to our opponent. Because if we let's say we point down, then we can use a considerably larger amount of city tiles to make the blocking platforms, whilst not giving a chance for our opponent to then, let's say, get away with like a simple road Dorito, which is not something that I would like to see.
Right. Yeah. So this is quite interesting in terms of those blocking opportunities, and it both look actually quite restrictive because this basically forces you to block with a city tile. This is forces you block with a road tile. But I wanted to commentate on the monastery spots. So to me, it doesn't seem like this early in the game such a big deal as to having these two equal monastery spots over here, because after all, like, there's still 5 in the deck, and drawing those would be wonderful. But the thing is that having these monastery spots is just not necessary, because if we're fortunate enough to draw 2 monasteries in a row pretty quickly, we're going to have ourselves a good position even if we don't have the optimal places to place them. So let's say if we go here, we get the first monastery over here, and the second, I don't know, well, if we don't get a cluster, we can just play the second monastery over here, for example, nicely controlling this here city, and we're also doing just fine with 3 monasteries. So going back to our top preferences, is this the number one, Otto, the multi-purpose idea?
For me it is, but I can't really speak for your sake. I'm not sure if you would appreciate this fancy move in the very early stages, or if you would like to just go for the field, which is like more direct and maybe a bit calmer approach.
I actually prefer this over the field. So my first thoughts was one of these 2 moves, just playing something calmer and low variance. Also, I did make a mistake at the start. I said that we're not having the starting player advantage, but we are actually having the starting player advantage, because I looked over here, and the way this website calculates the remaining tiles is a little bit different from Board Game Arena, because they include all unseen tiles, including the one which our opponent has in hand. So at first I thought that the quadruple city was discarded, but it is not discarded. So we do have ourselves a starting player advantage, which means that our position is probably going to be good most of the time, so I don't want to do anything particularly high variance. That said, this was my second thought sort of before the field idea. I generally like multi-purpose move, of course. This blocking platform is quite powerful. It allows us some moves with vanilla city caps, for example. We get to start a city, finish a city, block from above. If we want, we can even do something as simple as a curve, provided that we've already filled this here square. So I'm loving that idea. The one slight issue is that maybe our opponent can go here and obstruct our road a little bit, but if they're willing to spend the tile whilst all 8 crossroads are still in the deck, I think we're doing just fine. The one teeny tiny loss would be that we will not be able to add this 1 point to our road if our opponent does this, but then we're gonna get the 1 point compensation in the event our opponent chooses to go and spend a tile there. There is also a slight negative scenario that our opponent can go here with tempo, like with a starting tile and start a new city. But in this particular instance, this tactic is not as dangerous, because our opponent already needs a starting tile in this square. So the one downside of this here move is not even all that likely to happen. So I think we can go ahead and continue our vote. So what do we write? First of all, let's press confirm. And we don't need to place a meeple on this one. So multi-purpose move. Indirectly continuing the road and creating a blocking platform. And now let's see all the alternatives. I think we were quite exhaustive in looking at the options, but always there's going to be something that will be slightly surprising. So this is our move. Yeah, this is one thing that we discussed. This is another thing that we discussed. Oh, with a farmer even. Yeah, that also kind of makes sense. Helge also agrees with us. Oh, several people are suggesting this. This we discussed. Same thing without a farmer. What are... Yeah, so SP Man is saying aware of the destruction of 2 meeples. Well, this early in the game, it's not such a big threat. And this one also is an option that we talked about. So indirect continuation of the road through the monastery, this square being safe, but just really not thinking too much about the idea of blocking the city. And also same move as us. So everything we discussed. So we have 13 more minutes after this. Do you prefer one other quick problem, Otto, or like a 10-minute break? Up to you.
Let's. Well, I could actually do with a very quick break because I think I will have to do let's say announce some rescheduling to people that I have that I have set up some stuff to do because I did not really anticipate the match starting an hour later.
Oh yeah, I get it. So then let's see each other in 8 minutes, like 14:55 UTC, if that works.
Yep, sounds good.
Alrighty, yeah. So see you in a bit, and see y'all in a bit as well. I'm gonna get myself some hot beverages. I wish good things to you who is still watching this. I'm still Alexey, and with me is still my special guest, the Finnish master, Otto Ikonen, with a screen name Nallerheim. And we're still in 4 minutes about to broadcast the semifinals match of the Fourth International Qualifying Tournament for the 2026 Carcassonne Champions League between Huang of Taiwan and David Bourdois of Catalonia. We're not going to do another intro because we already did an intro an hour ago. The match was just rescheduled at a short notice due to misunderstanding of time zones, which is a very, very frequent issue in international Carcassonne. So we're prepared for that. Whoever loses gets eliminated from the tournament. Whoever wins advances to play against Otto Ikonen himself in the consolation finals for the spot in the main stage in the Carcassonne Champions League. We're starting in about 3 minutes. The chances are roughly equal for both sides because we're dealing with like top tier, high level players. Anything important I missed, Otto?
No, I think that pretty much sums it all up. It's well, yeah, like I said in the very early stages of the stream, it's gonna be a fantastic match for sure. A very high level gameplay, which is exactly what I, well, personally value over above maybe more than anything else.
I have a similar sentiment here. Maybe just one thing that we can do real quickly is show the stats to our viewers. David Bourdois with the screen name defdean, 4,000 games of experience, current rating 673, peak rating about 100 rating points above in the top 700s. Penguin EM, she's also in her mid 600s at the moment, 6,500 games of experience on the platform, so both incredibly experienced. Yeah, really nothing that much to add. I guess one small thing I wanted to add, which I didn't have time to include in the previous intro, is that defdean is one of the most interestingly players stylistically, kind of generally preferred open positions, like most Iberian players do, but he's a bit more diverse, a bit more unpredictable in a sense, a bit more flexible in his style. There was one quite legendary game with a self-invasion early on against United Kingdom's Feroz Yalçın that I had analyzed on stream. So Penguin, in that sense, she's a bit more predictable, very aggressive on points early on. And I've finished my thought. Yeah, I just wanted to add literally this one little thing. The match is going to start any minute. Let's just keep refreshing the page. One thing that I wanted to ask you, Otto, actually, is like from the top of your head, you've obviously played both of these players in tournaments and in casual games. Have you played either of these players more than the other?
I cannot really remember from the top of my head how many games I have against both, but by spidey senses, I would say that I have maybe a few more games actually with Penguin than I have with defdean, because I have had some practice sessions of my own, well, practice games rather, with Penguin, but not so much with defdean, at least as of right now.
Interesting. Well, for me, it's probably slightly the opposite, as I've just encountered Penguin in the tournaments only once, I believe, but defdean a couple of times in the previous year's qualification cycle for the Carcassonne Champions League and also in the Streamers Championship last year. organized by the Meeple podcast. Well, anyway, now finally, after an hour wait, we have actually started our game. Penguin with her traditional black meeples to match the color of Penguin's wings. Defdean with a bright red to presumably match one of the Catalonia's colors. Or could be just a default preference, I don't know. Miss Penguin already has 3 points on the scoreboard as a result of this completed road. Another 3-point road which outscores this here road of red by 1 point, and Defdean has a 6-point monastery, giving him an advantage overall in this position.
Yeah, certainly not the most usual position, to be honest, with still no city tiles drawn, except for now for Penguin with the first one is taken. But yeah, no one has been really able to get the max value really from the starting play position at the early stages. Though I have no doubt that it will come to be a fruitful thing in the end game here, just as much as it will be in almost any other game.
Interesting about nobody being able to take advantage of this starting square, and we see that Miss Penguin chooses not to bother with this. She just starts a new city over here, allowing David to take this square for himself, which I presume he would have done. But what do you make of this here idea on last move, and what do you make of this? I really did not expect of Defdean to play so much defensively, trying to block his opponent. I would genuinely thought he would just make the simpler move and pick up this city cap.
Yeah, well, although I would have certainly preferred to take over, well, basically take over the city cap, I don't really hate the move played by Penguin here, just going for like a bit more, maybe like sensible approach. It's maybe not the word, maybe like more careful approach at the early stages. Like, even though her position at the moment is not really the best one possible, given the early monastery of red, then still being able to have the first city of the game, it does, kind of give some leeway to her, and at least, if not for anything else, then Penguin is gonna be able to buy that move, be able to use both city tiles with field and city tiles with road, whereas really for Defdean, like, he can still use both, but to a bit of a lesser value, to a bit of a lesser extent.
Yeah, well, he chose, of course, use one of these tiles in a not exactly predictable way. Now nobody's going to take advantage of the city cap anytime soon, as this square has been blocked. Many interesting developments. A second monastery has been drawn. Penguin with a lot of straight roads managed to extract marginal value, now picks up a few points for her scoreboard. Defdean's probably gonna come back right at her by finishing the city and even dropping the farmer. That will be very much in his style. The farm is only worth 3 points, but upon connecting to a bigger farm, it will be worth at very least 6, 9 upon the completion of the city. Plenty of green squares to grow. And Penguin yet with another straight line, which is quite an interesting draw, because in her round 1 match against Ukraine's lawyer, she just could not draw a straight line for the life of her, and now all she gets is seemingly straight lines. So I wonder, how do you extract a bit of value here? Do you go here and try to obstruct the square a little bit, or do you do what she did, going for the field equalization?
I think going for the field equalization is actually, I think it would be the top thing for me to do as well, to try and extract as much value as possibly is possible to do. Now, this quad city is of course going to slightly hinder the let's say positive sides of trying to fight or trying to start a battle for the field, but given the roads are now cut, and the ruin what is practically what this almost always ends up being, is a nice way to do exactly this. Going to try and actually block, or let's say counter block some meeples of red, and therefore try and actually regain the advantage on meeples. Well, not only in players' hands with which black of course has now 4-1, but also very much long term. And even if the starting tile is drawn by red, then it's gonna be potentially some spicy stuff, because in some cases the starting tile is going to be drawn late enough that there's going to be enough of a time for Penguin to then go and actually try and complete that monstrosity with some maybe just a vanilla and some Dorito, and that, like, already those two tiles would put the city at a very decent shape.
And even more so, she doesn't even need to hope that the starting tile is drawn late. All she needs to hope is that she gets to cover up her city like soon enough. Even if she gets just one Dorito and goes over here, maybe starts a new road as well, then it becomes more dangerous for defdean to actually fill this hole, because suddenly black can create the completion of the city. defdean does not have many good squares or meeples even to fight for that city, so he might not even place the starting tile here in many scenarios. This monastery has almost achieved its maximum. It's now 6 points. It's going to be 8 points max. Well, 9 presumably that it gets completed, but if it does not get completed, it's 8. And the city of black is already 8 points after the shielded tile move, and could be many, many more moves after. But in the meantime, defdean, to offset this meeple disadvantage, has drawn himself a third monastery and now a fourth, which he interestingly chooses not to use.
Yeah, I'm certainly a bit surprised by this decision, given that there were still like a ton of different road ends in the deck, like, well, more specifically all but 2 crossroads, even though red currently needs them to another square. Now that square is not entirely like must fill thing, because he kind of first has to get the starting tile, and in order to like maybe even make sure that filling that square is even worth it, because it gives back the meeple for both like immediately. But going from 4 to 2 meeples to 5 and 3 is not really such a big like relief for red, especially given that the field fight just continues going on, and the road monastery that red used actually enlarges the field even further than it was before.
And it adds so many green squares, and this is the main reason why I don't like that move. Like, if that were a different road end, sure, no problem, we can sacrifice a couple of points just to get a meeple back, but black is the side with a long-term meeple advantage, and now with all these green squares, this field really becomes worth fighting for. There will be more field connection platforms in the future, and black is much more likely to gain herself the field majority than red is. Not anytime soon, as red is building a city next to his monastery. This is what he chose to use the recovered meeple for, which makes some sense. There were some threats of blocking this here square made by this Dorito tile by black. Now, there isn't really a real threat of blocking, but this here is a super sensitive situation. As black gets monastery of her own, catches up on points a little bit, somebody could get a vanilla city cap, go over here with a second meeple, then draw a triple city, and win a big city with a 2 versus 1 majority for 16 points perhaps, depending on the shield situation. And if David chooses, he can just go here now and prevent such an opportunity whilst also continue his monastery.
He could, but this is not really that tempting of an idea nonetheless, because it then is gonna create basically the unblockable passage to like a double Dorito draw for Penguin, which he can then very without any questions try and use, given the still in hand being meeple advantage, and given that defdean really doesn't have many tiles to get meeples back from.
But then you got to ask yourself, like, what's more dangerous? Is it more dangerous to allow this double Dorito pathway from above? I presume that's what you meant, kind of like this. Or is it more dangerous to just keep this open and allow something like a city cap plus a triple city? Maybe a little bit less so with the quadruple city being open, but then you also want to finish your monastery. defdean does go for this instead. Miss Penguin could, in theory, go here right now and try to fight for the city and try to make some block. This is probably not the best tile to do so, at least I don't expect her to go there. But she does so anyway. And I presume David will cover up a little bit. And this is a bit of a gain for black, because now Doritos don't go here from Meeple Recovery. Only one of the two remaining Vanilla City Cap go here from Meeple Recovery for red. So statistically, this monastery is going to be stuck here for a while, and 25% of the time is going to be stuck here forever.
Yeah, I am certainly, well, at least as much surprised as you for Black's decision to go there with the cow, given that like really it's not going to gain her all that much, well, compared to the potential that it had. So if we go there with a battle tile, let's say if we just wait for a city cap and then we try to like really utilize the potential of being able to score, of being able to score big, where like it does really seem like it should be the direction of the game, because with all these monasteries that defdean is getting, with basically very little to compensate for it for Penguin as of right now, because defdean doesn't really have fully blocked meeples anywhere, then like trying to counter these monasteries, this onslaught of monasteries, with a large feature that was then basically handed, well, not maybe on a silver platter, but then a possibility was handed to Penguin. Then, because we are now not deciding to use it, I think it's going to I think it's going to most likely come back and bite us just a little bit, at least in the late stage, when there is potentially not that many or not that juicy features to fight for and to utilize our meeple advantage for.
And I guess Penguin's idea behind this, what she wants to get a big feature in the form of the field, plain and simple. This wouldn't be such a powerful feature as the city, because of course the city would double the points and give her meeples back and so on. But at least this is something. This would definitely potentially punish defdean for this here idea of enlarging the field too much. We can see she is putting the meeple advantage here to good use, whilst red was picking some city caps, and both players were trying to block each other a little bit. A starting tile has been drawn, and because the city of black has increased in size a little bit, red can place this tile here relatively safely, not being too afraid that the city is going to get completed anytime soon. But what's going to get completed sometime soon is this here monastery from black, which will give her a comfortable meeple advantage again, and advantage on the field, which seems to, at the very least, almost compensate the extra monastery and the scoreboard difference. defdean, however, now has a chance to score a little bit more, with a very interesting tile in his hands, and two moves that he must be debating are either going over here and continuing his road and trying to get another straight line all the way around the monastery, which would also give him a meeple back, or to be more aggressive in scoring and go over here and try to wait for one of the two remaining curves for the chance of completing an 8-point road.
Those are certainly some decent options. I also did have a third thing in mind, that we could just go and, you know, like fully block the city of Penguin, just to be like not bothered with it potentially for the rest of the game, because I really would like to have I really would like to see that city being well dead from defdean's perspective, before like a vanilla or something hits, and then we have to actually try and create platforms to either attack or to prevent its completion. Now, defdean does go for a, well, it's sort of the move that you went for, but it's not really as efficient, given that there is the road monastery still remaining, but I think just focusing on the road and the monastery at the same time would be a nice, like, enough. And he can also use like the road monastery elsewhere anyway, for instance, now just to take the 6-point road.
Well, I believe that defdean is not the type of player to cheat and have a third road monastery up his sleeve somewhere, because one is just a bit difficult to notice here. It has already a meeple on it, and maybe he had forgotten about this as well. But yeah, there isn't a road monastery remaining. There are just these two curves. And also we now see that defdean would have continued his road, so I don't really see a good explanation for this here move, except for a possible miscount. Maybe he figured that he already needs some sort of a straight line-ish tile here, and he didn't want to go here. But now he will be biting his elbows, as he won't be able to complete his monastery anytime soon, and not be able to get any extra points for the road. He is fighting against this here city. Miss Penguin is creating more threats, maybe even finishing this here city, dropping a farmer. She now gets a chance to maybe draw one of the two remaining Doritos, because this is what remains for that square. No splitters available. defdean is now trying to build around it and block that meeple somehow, but it results in more city cap segments being in what's going to become black's field, and an increasingly difficult position when it comes to meeple management for defdean. He's trying to create a blocking platform. Miss Penguin is probably going to thwart that somehow. There's no point in going for the direct defense, because this is not a defense really. All the 4 cow tiles have gone, so a very easy decision to start a city for 8 points, hope to drop a city cap. defdean does get finally his monastery meeple back and the lead on the scoreboard in terms of 6 points, but Penguin jumps right back at him, getting 10 points for the city. defdean with a scoring tile yet again. Could go for 4 points here, or he could forego point scoring entirely and go here upstairs and start fighting for the field.
Could do that, which honestly I think is going to be the direction of the game that he's going to be heading, given that the field now has 15 points on it, and it's going to have most likely more when Penguin finishes the city, and given that there are still 2 city caps on the top, on the lower right, plus also, if there are vanillas remaining, which there seem to be, then defdean is going to be, I think, very much eager to also finish the monastery in the center, which will also bring yet another city to the field. And given that it will also bring a meeple to defdean, or at least it has a chance to bring him a meeple, same as the 2 remaining field crossroads still, then I really don't see defdean not attacking to this field at any point. Like, I don't think he's really in a condition to not do that.
Whilst the score looks equal and defdean has these lovely 2 monasteries, and you can start thinking about field conditions, we need not forget about the, what is like 14 or something points from black and this here ruin, and it seems to me that red indeed will have to attack the field. Knowing defdean, probably not right now. I think he'll prefer to munch on quick points first and then start dropping farmers, but he proves me wrong. It's a bit difficult to predict his moves today. This farmer at the top is interesting because something important happened. The last straight line was drawn, so there's nothing that fits into this square anymore. And it looks like now black will be forced to complete this city and give a meeple back to defdean. And this is one of the reasons why he's not so precious about his meeples and chooses to drop a farmer earlier rather than later.
That is certainly a good point, which I had missed, that the vanilla is indeed going to be acting as a almost of a forced tile for Penguin rather than for defdean, which really has to be something that that black is not feeling too happy about, because it's going to be not only inefficient, but it's only going to be, but it's also going to be giving back meeples to his opponent, to like, well, basically via a feature that the meeples are not. Are exactly the reason that you would not want to see those meeples getting back into red's hand for.
Yeah, and this allows Reds some sneaky tactics closer to the endgame. Let's say if vanilla city caps are not drawn soon enough, like Red sometimes can go here and drop a farm over his last meeple, then Black goes here, gives 2 meeples back to defdean hands, then defdean gets something like a crossroad tiled, does not go here, but goes here at the top instead, to complete the field's connection and also score for the road, so this is certainly something to explore. However, defdean is in a bit of trouble in this here area because his square is about to get blocked soon enough. Miss Penguin drew herself the last crossroads, which means that a standard type of defense with a field segment towards this area is not going to work. So in fact, defdean is going to need one of the 2 remaining crossroads here because there are no dagger tiles either, so only 2 tiles that fit into this square, and already needed by red in multiple areas, whilst Tailong has herself this curve, and she might be thinking about dropping a farm of her with her last meeple somewhere, maybe here perhaps, which would be almost unblockable, maybe here, just to take out the field invasion spot from defdean. Or maybe she wants to wait for a better idea until she gets some more meeples back.
Potentially so, but with 11 tiles remaining, like, I really don't see like great scoring opportunities for black. That she would really she would really like need this meeple for, and because of the board being like kind of dry for new features, then I think, well, what would be the intuitive thing that comes to my mind for Penguin is to just, simply attack the field right here, right now, and either rely on getting Maple back from the city on the right or from the city in the center, provided that she can, like, via that route also gets yet another meeple to the field and maybe even secure the field with that third meeple, which, for all intents and purposes, if she can secure the field with 3 meeples, it would really look like a decent position for her. But looks like that is not at all what she has in mind, given that she just decides to disregard the opportunity. And yeah, I really don't know what, like, to what end. Like, she has a lot of faith seemingly to the vanillas, but like, if you have faith for the vanillas, then why would you just not use a vanilla to connect to the field then elsewhere if you are, if you have the chance to do so? Because she could have just attacked with the curve.
She could have indeed, and I felt that your speech was rather convincing, honestly. I would have done this. We can kind of quibble as to which of these 2 squares was better. I guess Black must have calculated that there was a rather high chance of blocking this square, and she wants to keep things efficient. She wants to win this field with a 2 versus 1 majority rather than 3 versus 1. It does seem to me that because of her extra ruin and the size of the field, which has 7 completed cities on it, it's going to have 8 completed cities after this here tile is drawn. It seems that even a 3 versus 1 majority and being slightly inefficient is good enough, but so far she is the favorite for the field regardless. Still 2 tiles available for the square. This is completely blocked because no daggers are remaining. defdean now gets a crossroads, which he's probably going to use here to get him meeples back, but instead he chooses to take 3 points. And no, he chooses to drop a farmer. Oh, isn't that interesting? Because he knows, first of all, that Black is going to give him 2 meeples back if Black connects to the field, so there's nothing for him to worry about. in terms of spending his last meeple. Then he has multiple tiles to go here. He still does actually have one rose tile to fit into the square and connect like this. And even if he doesn't get it, he has a tile that goes over here to connect like this, which can be either the last regular monastery or one of the two remaining vanillas. There are no splitters remaining that could go like this, but still it's a large number of tiles. There are no straight lines remaining to block this invasion, and there are no extenders either. So this farmer looks just utterly brilliant to me.
That indeed it is. Honestly, I don't think I've seen a better farmer during the entire year with with a quick look, like half the tiles being able to make the connection, and like it's just unblockable in every way possible. There are, like you said, like I mean, there are no curves, there are no straight lines, there are even no extenders remaining. Like there's nothing to block it. That is just absolutely an amazing find by defdean.
And he gets rewarded for it by drawing one of his many connection tiles. He can get himself the field majority, and he even sets himself a little bit of extra points, right? Because if he gets the extra rows, he gets a bit more on his field. There's only one vanilla city cap remaining, and defdean gets the other one. Penguin is stranded. defdean has the majority on the field, 2 versus 1. Miss Penguin doesn't really have any good platforms for invading, and she doesn't even get to finish her city, because now David gets to go over here if he wants and try and block that city from completion with something like a rose tile. I doubt that he even needs to do that. All he needs to do, it seems to me, is just take care of the field invasion platforms, if there are any. So the next minute and 55 seconds will be spent by the Catalan on identifying, are there even any threats from black to attack the field in the first place?
Yes, indeed, and that attack by defdean has just put him into what seems to be a very wonderful position now. Now I have done like very fast calculations with the points, although I'm not exactly sure of the exact counts, but it looks like the monasteries of red are first of all going to equalize the ruin of black. So let's give Penguin, like, let's say +4 advantage here. Then the roads on the left slightly better for red, so +2 or so. The little city on the right for Penguin for +3. And now when there is seemingly next to nothing to go for the field with, and especially with not defdean making everything in his power to try and really exert every bit of tile that he can to take away any remote possibilities to get to the field, I don't really see what Penguin can do. This also looks like a very decent idea from defdean. So taking away what looks to be like a potential ninja attacking spot with a road Dorito or something. Although there are no road Doritos, but there's something like surely some decent reason for the move.
Well, this was some sort of a defense maybe against some unspecified tiles. Basically, defdean figured, you know what, there are no other threats. Like, I can't be super precise on the tiles. My time is running short. I know that this move definitely doesn't do anything bad, so let me just go here. And Penguin actually did have herself a potential chance of invading over here through a road monastery and something else. defdean very wisely sacrificed 7 points to try and block that opportunity, and had he not done that, actually Miss Penguin would have drawn both tiles to go here and connect her new farmer to the field. So a very clutched, disciplined decisions for defdean, not taking the 7 points, making the sacrifice, blocking everything, making sure that defdean, that Penguin, despite being at a meeple majority for the most of the game, ends up not even tying but losing the big field, and results this in a win for the Catalan master with how many points? Around 15, it seems. 12. +12 is the win.
Yeah, I have to say I am incredibly surprised that the second farmer of black never connected, even though it seemed super great spot to do so with like any road tile, or of course with the vanillas, but like it just had so many tiles to connect like throughout the game. But I wonder, like, did Penguin at any moment actually have a tile to do that, but just didn't didn't go for it just purely because she had something better to do at the time. Now I don't think so because if I do remember correctly, then the restriction sequences coming from defdean started almost immediately.
Yeah, indeed, and these restriction sequences will also gave him a lot of quick points. So over here, but this also just shows like how the Catalan master can extract that extra value, not just mindlessly score points somewhere, but also just try to set up these blocks in addition. And sometimes they just happen to work. Also, quite ironic how Miss Penguin has this special relationship with a straight line. First of all, she draws nothing but straight lines, but when she actually needs one, she cannot draw a straight line for the life of her. And her misfortune here continues. Let's see if she does better in the second game, which must have already started. And yes, it has. So now David is the starting player, and he has already points on the scoreboard. Early Farmer, admittedly equalized by Miss Penguin, and the first Monastery, whereas Miss Penguin only has herself some city projects, which aren't even getting completed, as now, look at this, now she's getting a straight line. This is a mildly useful tile, maybe not quite what she needs. Finally, a city tile for herself, 6 points. Getting herself a new meeple, and I'm sure enough that she will fight for this field this time more proactively because the board is very open. This farm has a bunch of green squares, so many city caps, already 18 points most likely going to be on the field so early on, which probably favors her given that she's behind on points a little bit. On the other hand, her being at a disadvantage in endgames, defdean being the starting player, will make it, I guess, a little bit more likely that red wins this, and overall, red position seems to be slightly more favorable.
I do think so too, yeah, especially given that there are no like super great attacking spots to this field at the moment. Like the only one is on the left, and it would be hindering the completion of the road, although not to such a big extent, to be honest, because with any restriction coming to the left to the road of black, then it's still going to allow a rather nice defense and potentially a unblockable connection to the field. And now, if played correctly, there are times where this field can be like fully actually closed down, even though it looks like super just wide open at the moment, and in the most fruitful position for black, like even the further meeples to the field from coming from red would be denied, but obviously that was seemingly very hopeful thinking, as defdean immediately finishes the city and of course drops the farmer, as does that very little farm already has potential of its own, even if it were to never unify with the main field.
And it seems to me that defdean doesn't even have plans of unifying it with the main field. Like, if I were the Catalan player, my ideal run out of tiles would be something, okay, over here, maybe our opponent gets to finish the city, and we get something like a regular Dorito to drop a farmer over here and win the main field for 18 points. And then we still get to keep the secondary meeple with... we get to still keep the secondary field with 9 points. And the reason my speech slowed down so much is because I was expecting the natural move here by Miss Penguin, just scoring quick points, but she appears to have gone for something super, super risky and trying to go for a ninja farmer with 50 tiles remaining in the deck.
That is certainly something that I also did not expect to see. I was visibly raising my eyebrows very wide, given that it was only the first of the crossroads in the first place to go there. Now, despite despite Black having also their own monasteries, like for the worst case scenario, then like I really don't think that this is the positions to go for these like small Hail Marys when when you have like 3/4 of the game unplayed and more spots are inevitably going to become available for you to attack the field with.
So this seems to be one of those moments where we're talking about nerves. Like, this is the reason why I think Penguin has such a high rating overall on average, but sometimes in tournaments, like when she's a little bit behind, she gets a little bit tilted also in her decider against Lawyer. This is not necessarily a crazy move, but typically you want to risk this hard when you're a little bit further behind. If she just gets herself the road, she's doing absolutely fine. And also, it was actually maybe a little bit more precise to go, well, no, this move is a little bit is fine. It's going to be either way, but there are a couple of reasons why going over here might have been a little bit better. There are just fewer blocking opportunities. Red, in the meantime, manages to complete his city, get the advantage on the scoreboard again, drop yet another farmer, get the position very open. Miss Penguin, however, has herself this secondary monastery. If she gets a curve, which looks now increasingly likely because a couple of crossroads have been drawn, she now gets herself the connection, gets the city cap. She's now going to try and finish the city and drop a farmer, which I'm pretty sure David will try not to allow, like right now. He's not going to shell out for quick points here. Of course, he's going to make what seems to be the best move in trying to set up the greatest threats in Carcassonne of his own. Whilst Miss Penguin has a difficult decision with this here regular monastery. She chooses to stack them but not place a meeple. Alternative ideas were available. She doesn't go for them, chooses to save meeples for this field fight, and defdean gets himself on the farm first. Fortunately for Black, she gets herself a meeple out of trouble. It was a very blockable spot, but defdean now gets himself the majority on the field. Yet again, this field is huge. There are already 3 red farmers on it, only 2 black farmers on it, and there is a 4th red farmer for insurance over here. If defdean gets a super majority on the field, it will be very, very difficult for Miss Penguin to play this, and he now even gets the monastery, which I have no doubt he's going to meeple, although I should have maybe had a bit more doubts. Actually, this move from defdean seems to be a bit reasonable. He figures out that he doesn't really need the extra monastery points in order to secure the game. He just needs the meeple for insurance in case Penguin finds a way to get herself 2 or even 3 more meeples in the field. All defdean needs to do is just find another platform and equalize.
Yes, and actually I am actually rather surprised that defdean even took the 2 points with the monastery, because if you look at the position, the 1 point meeple of Black, it's trapped, it's dead. Like, all daggers are gone. And Red actually just had a chance to also block the monastery of Black, putting Black at -2 meeples and being down on the field practically 4-2 and being down on like in points. Like, I would honestly say that if that monastery was blocked, like on with the road monastery, then the chances of Black would have just dropped drastically, like, to win this game on the spot. And I mean, they are kind of bad, like, as of right now, immediately, like, anyways. just because of the rather horrendous position on the field, and also having the trapped meeples.
This is an idea that I had overlooked, and the Catalan master must have overlooked either. I guess he just looked at this here threat created at black on her previous move. Maybe he was afraid that with some tiles, like the cow, for example, black gets to both go over here and attack the field and also block this here area. But the block of this square definitely would have been definitive. But really some more tilting moves on the part of Miss Penguin, because she could have protected her monastery, but she didn't. She went for a scoring route with an idea of also trying to fend up this red farmer, which really doesn't really work most of the time. By the way, had she protected her monastery, she would have gotten herself a meeple back. And this is something that we can see time and time again, like whenever she gets slightly behind but still a playable position, just a couple of serious moves just get a little bit too desperate, and her experienced opponent takes advantage right back.
Yeah, this field just looking tremendous. 24 points, and like whilst not having like really any room to grow, like it just doesn't need to. Like 24 points for 2 extra meeples when your position is so good, then like there's barely anything you really need to do almost throughout the entirety of this game. Like maybe I'm over exaggerating just a little bit, but like I do believe that this is one of those situations which for a player of David's caliber, it's truly almost impossible to lose.
It is quite close to this, although I can see some winning routes. So maybe black can use the blockage of this meeple to her advantage. Like if she goes here, then blocks this square, then she has only a -1 minority on the field when it comes to meeples. Then she can go here with the crossroad tiles, drop a farmer like this, knowing that there are no rose tiles to block her farmer. Then she can get one of the 2 remaining road Doritos, connect over here like all the way through this. Then this would maybe open another field attacking platform. So there's a world where black not only equalizes but also wins the field, but it takes really a lot. We see that she was trying to block red's monastery, but red successfully gets a dagger tile, pretty much the best pull in the deck, chooses to defend his monastery, and now it is not possible to block this monastery without also blocking black's road, because now the absence of rose tiles in the deck goes to her disadvantage, as she cannot get her meeple back without going past this here critical square and helping out red's monastery.
Yeah, the monasteries being now equal, well, in points, let's say, and the rest of the features of black on the board are putting him just like 1 point below David's on the scoreboard, and really Penguin going for like just new cities here at the bottom. I don't think are really going to like increase in her winning chances, like because this field is now just entirely closed. Well, apart from very, well, let's say rural paths to the field, then without blocking the 4th meeple of red, as you mentioned, to the dagger at the bottom, then like these small points don't really seem to be doing all that much for Penguin, and especially now when the 4th meeple has been just put through.
Which is actually an instructive moment from defdean part. So technically he loses 6 points from that move, because now this farmer is not scoring extra for these here cities, but he realizes that these 6 points do nothing for his win probability. He just needs to get as many meeples as possible on the field. He has a 2 meeple majority there. Miss Penguin is trying to very, very hard to score some extra. She starts a counter field, which seems like it's not going to be enough. I guess, I'm not sure, maybe there's some ideas if she like draws every single city cap in the deck. She's certainly trying to do that, getting 4 points over here, maybe looking to go here and here, expand her little farm for 9 points, maybe score some points here. defdean just keeps building up on the right. Both players are playing very fast now because the decisions are quite natural. Miss Penguin now takes 2 points for the road with the intention of later drawing a Dorito tile and claiming this huge ruin, but it is very possible that defdean will claim this ruin to himself. Not right now, as his tile is a crossroad. He uses it to take 2 points a bit imprecisely. It was probably better taking off the 3 points option away from his opponent. Now Tailong is probably going to take here, because it's a lot of points. It actually almost matches the field, really. Not quite, but worth doing, it seems. The only issue with that is that black has no further meeples to score, and the best way she can go about scoring is find something in those squares, enlarge the fields, and hope that defdean does not draw scoring tiles, which he does in the form of the road monastery, and gets himself 2 points. 2 points extra for Miss Penguin are going to follow, unless she figures it's better to go here for 3.
Yeah, at this stage, with the ruin not being able to be completed, not the monastery being able to complete it, or the 1 point city for black not being able to get meeples back from anywhere, except for finishing a shared road, then honestly for defdean, I would perhaps even see the best option to simply to drop a farmer on the 6 point field at the bottom, and just to ensure that the penguin is really unable to continue her small farm at the bottom and not being really able to score points from anywhere.
It looks like something David is going to do with his next tile, unless of course it's a city cap for finishing his city. Yeah, plenty of ways of to win this right now. Miss Penguin expands her city a little bit. Now, this is the moment we're probably going to see the 6 point farmer from defdean. This would ensure the win, unless he wants to get himself some style points and try to invade this big ruin. I don't think that he should do that, but you know, we can allow a man to have his fun. He chooses to do something else, which is a bit interesting. This allows Miss Penguin to take some extra points here. And now I realize that maybe, Otto, you must have meant this here farmer for 6 points instead of this here farmer for 6 points, which probably works just as well. But yeah, this is just at the bottom a bit more precise and a little bit better. defdean is going to allow a field expansion because he loves quick points so much. He wants to be ahead on the scoreboard in every which way. Miss Penguin gets herself a city points. Now defdean gets to finish his city and even drop another farmer to be as efficient as he possibly can. And Penguin gets herself a 12-point farmer, which is quite laudable. So Otto's idea of dropping a farmer here, at least with this here tile, would have worked a little bit better for a more respectable score difference. David is going to prevail regardless, as he gets to score himself a 7-point ruin at the very, very end. And let's see what that final difference is. 8 points for Penguin's Monastery. A boatload for the city, namely 17. But a nice 7 for defdean. The roads are shared for red and black. And black will even get the field advantage for 24. Penguin's gonna get herself the 12-pointer. defdean gets the 3 points for a... It seems like it was a narrow win with 9 points. In reality, the game was almost at 100%, like a few times before the end. I guess maybe if defdean does not get to finish his city, it gets a little bit closer, but he should win by a couple of points in most scenarios.
Really should for sure. Yeah, the early field stuff just put Penguin in such a painful situation at the very early stages that even with you know trying to take, well, let's say the additional risk taking for going for the blocking route on the additional red farmers on the big field rather than saving the monastery of her own, then really didn't increase the winning chances. Like that extra meeple could, I guess, come in handy if you are to ever even like really go for a field fight in the first place. But that, like mentioned multiple times now, at different parts of the game, would most likely require the blocking of the 6-point meeple of red at the bottom.
Agreed, and we have ourselves a bit of post-game analysis where defdean, being a perfectionist, is actually not happy with his play, saying that he got in danger in the end, which is not entirely true. I mean, he would be winning by a couple of points with pretty much every draw. He's saying his meeple on the top road was so bad, which I profoundly disagree, because if he doesn't go here for the road meeple, this would actually allow Miss Penguin to get a crossroad, drop a farmer, finish herself a giant road, get a meeple back, and then be really, really in a position to equalize this game later. So I think defdean is being a little bit too critical of himself. Mainly he figures out if nothing was fit into this square, it was a waste of meeple for 4 points. But the only reason nothing fits into that square was that the red meeple was here. Otherwise, there was still a chance of black getting herself some extra opportunities.
Also, on top of that, saying that it was a bad road meeple, like I do wholeheartedly agree with you that like it really was not. Like it not only denied Penguin from continuing the road and potentially being able to get a meeple back relatively easily, but also like whatever tile goes onto that connection spot, between the two roads, it's going to create the field attacking possibility, and just that one spot, if not handled like with in a quick fashion, then it can actually create multiple connection spots later on. And given that Penguin just happened to have like one extra meeple in his in her hand, and maybe being able to get back a meeple from the road, those two meeples could really do some damage for defdean. Well, provided that he gets maybe slightly worse than average tile draw and really not being able to do anything for those attacking spots.
But it seems that defdean still wants to keep incriminating himself after a perfect game, saying some things which are not entirely true. So, for example, he's saying that it was better for him to focus on the big ruin because it was a lot of points. But actually, at the time, the big ruin didn't exist. The only way the big ruin was created is a few moves after, like, or even 10 moves after, where black drew this tile, took 2 points, and then drew another tile to make the big ruin. So this wasn't even a thing back then. Whilst the sentiment is laudable to try and improve your game even when you win, I feel like this is a great illustration of why Miranda rights exist in certain countries, like the right to remain silent. But let's see what the players have to say, because Penguin EM is also tying something. Well, she's going to have herself some consolation pizza after this loss. She will be eliminated yet again just a bit earlier. than last year. If I'm not mistaken, this was the same duel, Otto, in the last year's qualification, except that she won against defdean, or did I get that wrong?
It was indeed, yeah. At least when I took a look at the CCL history, then these two exact players did indeed arise in the lower in the lower finals, and in which Penguin did end up being victorious last year. But this time not so much. This time David is out for blood and does indeed take that in full bottles.
Yeah, so there was this extra angle, of course, this match being a rematch from last year, which I should have maybe mentioned at the start, but, well, now I did. And whilst we thank Miss Penguin for her participation, defdean moves on, and he moves on, well, where exactly? He moves on here to face none other than Nallerheim in the consolidated finals next week, which I regrettably will not be able to show, so all hope is on our colleague Ice Maze. What do you expect from that match, Otto? Did you learn anything in particular about defdean's style, about the farming opportunities? Try to let us know your thinking without maybe revealing your prep too much as to how you're going to deal with the onslaught from the Catalan master.
Well, to be honest, I don't think I will be like switching up my own game to try and like fit to the style of my own, or let's say not fit to the style of my opponent so much. I think like just bringing my let's say just trying to bring my own A game is going to be enough to give me a clear, well, I'm gonna say a decent winning shot, and being able to have a good chance at not replicating my past year's mistakes of not being able to get to the main stage.
Well, I certainly wish you best of luck in that, but I wanted to point out to, well, you already know this, but there's a big difference in approach between you and I, because I like to adjust to my opponent's styles very much, play things which are a bit uncomfortable for them. And in particular with defdean, I had the pleasure of meeting in person and playing a couple of casual games in a cafe in the United Kingdom. And the first of these games, there was a big field, inevitably for 27 points, and I got smacked because this guy's field vision is like nothing else, as we saw in the first game. In the second game that we played, the position was more closed, and that one I did manage to win. And I certainly feel that if I were meeting defdean in the tournament, I would just try and play mini battles, play as if I'm Japanese, basically. So, you do you. I'm pretty sure you have plenty of experience in this tournament, but just wanted to point out that I absolutely love adapting or maladapting to my opponent's styles and that make things uncomfortable for them when I can do that.
I will try and do my best for sure. I'm not gonna promise that there won't be any shenanigans, or let's say extra shenanigans, but I will, I think, keep those words in mind. So I still don't think I will be like fully going for a specific type of board structure. Like if I have the choice, like in the very beginning, to like forcefully go for something, I usually tend to like kind of stay away from those. I like to keep things flexible and just go with what the conditions are, not really trying to shake off my own game too much.
That makes a lot of sense. So again, we wish you the best of luck. I hope that it's going to be a spectacular match regardless of who wins. And before we leave, just got to remind you a couple of things. So on this channel is going to be the last broadcast of the year, as I will be taking a little bit of a break for traveling. I'm gonna see y'all around January 10th for more Carcassonne Champions League stuff, for more uploads and things like this. In the meantime, make sure to subscribe to this channel for more competitive Carcassonne content like this, unless you already have to. And of course, visit and subscribe to Otto's channel, which is just youtube.com/Nallerheim. Very easy to remember, very easy to find. Same screen name as Board Game Arena. And if you liked anything about this video, you can show so by meepling the like button, which does for the algorithm more than you might think. That would be very much appreciated. So on that note, we're going to be wrapping up. Thank you so much, Otto, for joining me today.
No worries, always a pleasure to be here anytime.
And thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.